hypnotherapy is my work, and when I heard that that was a real profession, I thought, no way, that's a real thing. I want to know everything about it. Are we rolling on the slides?
Nope.
And so, welcome. So it's a natural function of the human mind to go into trance. We go into trance all the time. You need to be sufficiently intelligent, and fear will break the trance. Any point at which you say no, you'll pop out of it automatically. Trance is a feature of the human mind, not a problem. Stage hypnotists make people do funny things. You won't bark like a chicken unless you have a latent desire to bark like a chicken for the stage hypnotist to exploit and bring out of you. Kind of altered states, any altered states are possible. All altered states are a function of trance. And to the unconscious mind, imagination is as real as experience. The unconscious mind is as if an infinitely large sphere that's wrapped by the conscious mind. The conscious mind is like a filter that ascertains if what is one experiencing is let in. All sorts of ways to create trance. Basically what we're doing is getting that thin film to resonate, so the conscious mind and the unconscious mind, when they resonate, that is the state of trance. When you're unconscious, so Michael Jordan on the basketball court is in a state of trance to be so single focused. But then there's also the possibility of deep trance. In states of deep trance, you can have full-on hallucinations that are experienced as real. In reverse chronological order, these fellows have had something to do with our understanding of hypnosis. Richard Bandler was largely studying Milton Erickson because he was this magical figure who was always in trance. He had polio as a young kid. He became completely paralyzed except for his eyeballs. So his parents put him in the kitchen and he became very observant. And he noticed that inside every person there are two, who they think they are and who they really are. His doctors told him when he got the use of his upper body back, get your upper body really strong, your lower body will follow suit. So he canoed down the Mississippi River and halfway through the summer turned around, canoed home, and he could walk by a crutch at that point. Ericksonian hypnosis is largely just telling stories about Erickson. Erickson would hypnotize people through his stories. They'd say, well, can we get to work now? And he's like, you're already done. It's a funny quote. NLP is the study of Erickson and others like Virginia Satir. It's basically now we kind of understand how hypnosis works, even though Milton didn't know what he did. Richard Bandler went to meet Milton Erickson, and he thought, I'll put myself into a trance before I meet him. And then Milton was talking, and everyone fell asleep except for Richard Bandler. He was wondering, why can't I put Richard Bandler into a trance? Because he was already in his own trance. So what it's useful for is any way in which our lives aren't what we imagine they could be. We have all sorts of things that the way our experience appears to us, which are generated by our unconscious mind. And we actually can manipulate and change that so our experience appears differently. It's very effective for smoking. The plant has, in a sense, hypnotized us into thinking that it's a good idea to wrap a toxic plant into paper and light it on fire and inhale the fumes. So anything that's possible can be imagined possibly. That's a confusing statement designed to show you a trippy picture. If you want to make, you can impress that upon your unconscious mind. So we are not our car, we're not our identity, our bank account. We're not all the things we think we are because we're not an idea. We're an actual thing that's unfolding. So all those ideas are old as soon as they exist. The unfolding of our experience, the nature of our trance in each moment is exactly who we are. And so we can learn to construct that and make ourselves who we want by adjusting the unconscious mind. And so look at a spinning triangle, a square-based pyramid as it spins, and talking about trance itself is very hypnotic, but the easiest way to go into trance is just to imagine you're in a trance. When you imagine you're in a trance, it's the same thing. So something to play with. Talking about trance is hypnotic, but snapping out of it, letting ourselves come back to wherever we were in a new and better way, and letting these feelings spread around in a good way. We could have questions. We're complete.
Now I know why we had to dose on ice cream before.
Oh, you probably can't see.
Oh, yeah.
the light.
How does going into a trance relate to meditation? Meditation is used medically as like a way to solve certain problems. It feels like they might be related. Are they related? Is there a connection?
They're very related. You know, if you listen to a teacher of meditation, they are naturally using hypnotic language. Focus on your breath. You can feel your breath, and you're thinking, yeah, I can feel my breath. And your breath can soften, and you're like, oh, my breath can soften. And so whatever they say next is likely to be absorbed as well, and we're conditioning ourselves to being relaxed, more mindful, more concentrated, by skillfully using trance. It's a very good question. They're intimately related.
You said that you do something with this. Do you do this for a living?
Yeah.
Can you explain that?
I do, yeah. I work a lot with people who have trauma. Hypnosis is not the primary modality, but it supports anything where we're trying to learn. I also work a lot with people quitting smoking, and that is very susceptible to hypnosis. I look at hypnosis as simply being very, very good communication. It can also be used in misleading ways, but that's using good communication unethically. At its very nature, it's just simply communicating where my unconscious mind is resonating with my conscious mind, which is resonating with your conscious and unconscious mind, so that the ways in which you wouldn't see things that are obvious to everyone who's not you, you begin to see that as well. Does that make sense?
And people come to you, they seek you out because they've had trauma, and it's like another type of therapy?
Yeah. Yeah, trauma is an interesting field because it's only existed for the last 40 years, whereas psychoanalysis has been over 100 years. Only in the last 40 years, we're learning ways to unravel trauma that are actually new. There's techniques that are a lot more effective than talking about it.
Could you differentiate the different states of mind and body? Like, there's sleeping, there's unconsciousness, there's meditation, there's trance. Like, how do we know we're in one versus the other?
Yeah, well, you can break that down by the brainwave stuff, which to me seems a little wonkish. It's details that doesn't really mean anything, but there are states of relaxation, and if we get relaxed enough, we'll just go to sleep. There's states of concentration. There's also states of excitement. These are all completely different from trance. So like Michael Jordan can be in a highly activated place, but single-pointedly and totally aware of all the details that are happening for him. That kind of doesn't answer the question, but it kind of shows some of the terrain.
You're the expert.
How do you, in your role as either like a teacher or a therapist, sort of determine whether it's being effective for the trance techniques are being effective for someone, or they're sort of being receptive in a way that it's working for them, versus somebody who's earnestly trying and it's for whatever reason it's not being effective for them?
Not everything will work, and if it doesn't work, just move on. It's just like okay, that didn't work, but how about this? So you can put someone into trance who's totally resistant. If you get behind them and are resistant with them, they'll be, this guy's on my side, I like this guy, right? So it's all like how to do that. You can see if someone's in trance. It's kind of obvious when you learn to see the signals, and there's also very refined signals as well. One time Milton was teaching a group of people, and they videotaped it, and one of his students asked him later, like, why'd you put that person in trance? And he's like, well, I saw she was going into trance anyway. Well, how did you know she was going into trance? And he says, I saw the pulse on her ankle slow. So it's like the more information you're taking in, like receiving the whole person. There's things like the vertical lines on the lips disappear because the lips become more engorged with blood when you go into trance. The color of the skin changes. But again, it's like if you're trying to use your conscious mind to identify these things, you're missing the big picture. If you let your unconscious mind feel like, is this person resonating with me? Largely it's a process of you talk, I listen, I validate, I reflect back, we feel like we're resonating, using the proper words and whatnot. Nowadays it's no longer pendulum, no one does that. Most of it's through language.
I have a question for everyone in the room. Raise your hand if you have been hypnotized or you believe that you've been in a trance. Induced by someone other than yourself.
I wanted to ask the same question. I'm glad you asked that.
You're not raising your hand.
You know, I've been to one hypnotherapist. Most aren't very good, honestly. He was like well respected, and it totally didn't solve the problem I showed up to him at. You know, but I know when I'm going in trance, I can go into trance, and I can tell when people are influencing me in that same way. So I should have raised my hand. Yes.
What does a trance experience like?
It can be like anything.
What is yours like?
Well, they're all different. They're all different. So whatever experience you have, you might be like, oh, I don't like this, I like this. But if you stop and really have the experience, like right there, you're in a trance state. If you're not fighting your experience, you're in a trance. You know, if your mind is scattered, then you're not. It's kind of like when I play music. Like, I want everyone to like it. I'm not in trance. Playing music, this sounds great, this is great. Maybe, maybe not. But there's a way when it's like, it just is what it is. There's no possibility of a wrong note. Like, it's just like, it's perfect even if there's a wrong note. That is clearly trance. Because there's no judgment, the conscious mind isn't deciding, the experience is just unfolding. It actually happens for us all the time. If you're ever watching a TV show and you really care about the characters, it's just lights on the screen with noises. You're in a trance.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Great.
Any other questions? No? It's sort of, so like the question that you asked, I'm curious of the other people who raised their hand that have felt like they were in a trance or hypnotized, and maybe for you also. So I was on stage in one of those things where there's 10 people and they're like, oh, do this thing. And the way that so I was next to my stepdad, who was an incredibly dry, sarcastic, biting man. And I remember like I was watching it out of the corner of my eye, like, holy shit, he's into this. And then at some point he like looked at me and like made eye contact. I was like, oh, okay, he's not. And I felt the same way, but it was like easier to be talked into stuff because everyone else thought that I was just, it's like being drunk without actually being drunk is kind of how it felt. Like, oh, I have an excuse to like let myself go. And so the first thing you said about that space being, or like the space between your, I don't remember how you said it, it's like one of your first slides, some veil is thinner or something, between your conscious and your subconscious or whatever. Anyway, so like for the other people who've been there, what was that like? Anybody want to share?
So yeah, it was similar. Like you're just relaxed enough that you don't care and you let go of caring.
Yeah.
You let go of and so if someone suggests something, you're like, sure, you make
Cool,
a decision to do it, but the threshold of doing it is lower because they have very little desire not to. And again, because there's no judgment. And I think that what you're saying, there's no judgment of your own. And I think that, and I've also been in trance states. I do a lot of dancing, so like I get that with my partner and with the music, and so I kind of know what that feels like as well. But yeah, like on stage ones, I find them a lot of fun because it is being drunk without any alcohol, which is fun.
A tiny little neurological point. I've done some research into flow, which it sounds like you were alluding to without mentioning. And one of the things they describe is the systematic disactivation of the inhibitory neurons, which if you're really good at something, you don't need anything telling you no. The yes will do it. And so you can do things very fluidly because you don't have that should I, shouldn't I. And it sounds like that's the experience you guys are both describing of seems like a good idea, we'll do it. You don't have that internal cacophony of I don't know. So that's
Yeah,
I hadn't
that's
really
exactly
made
what
that connection until just now, especially with it's a little bit like being drunk. Yeah, because the no voices are just
Yeah.
on vacation.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
And
Now-
it's
now-
still willpower is there, and you're still saying, yeah, I'm gonna do this. Like
Yeah.
it's a conscious choice, but it's there's no reason not to do it, I guess. So you do it.
I just had a comment. So I read an article where they were asking about like how people used to work 100 years ago versus now, and they said that 100 years ago most people worked with their hands, so the labor was actually like physical labor more, and now people work more with their brains. So most of us like work on a bench, and we are really using our brain more than our hands or our feet. And so what they have realized is that back then you could not do so much like brain exercise or meditation, and you could still be fine because your brain was a lot quieter and not being used or stressed as much. But nowadays, because we are using our brain all the time with what we do, our brain is really at a very, very stressed level. So, you know, your work and other people who do meditation and like, you know, therapy is actually, we don't even realize the importance of it, of like relaxing your brain and kind of getting the stress out, because that actually affects not just your brain, but all your body and function.
Yeah.
That's the comment.
Wonderful point. Yeah, tying in with the question about meditation, if you have a really noisy brain, you sit down and meditate, you're like, car, this, that, be mindfully noting all this stuff. That's not what the Buddha was recommending. He was saying get really quiet and then look at the nature of reality. So meditation, yeah, we got a lot, yeah.
So do you have recommendations? What? Was it finished? I should
No.
No, this is about you, Victoria.
So I did not relate with anything you said. Anyone who knows me will not be surprised. And so I have tried the whole like meditation. I thought I should do yoga, and the idea of yoga stressed me out to the point that I decided it would be less stressful to not do yoga. And like, if you tell me calm down and like relax, I sleep. Like it happens to me all the time. I try to meditate and I just sleep. Do you have tips to like actually get to that state of like not being active in your brain? Because I want that. Like I need the rest.
Right.
Do you have tips?
So
like
you're
beginners?
you're
like
very active, but if you stop being active, you turn off.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, start by noticing this is the way it is. Like there's more to learn about that. One thing is if you get quiet, then you go to sleep.
Yeah.
Like, well, that's good. Get quiet and then learn to not go to sleep. One thing you might do, for instance, is once you get quiet, imagine that you're meditating on top of a telephone pole. So this is an image, like, okay, now I'm having an imagination of trying to meditate, being very quiet, but I gotta be like awake or I'm in danger. That little bit of fear can keep us activated. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm. I'll try.
Okay.
I might just jump.
You gotta fall off.
I found that physical exercise really helps, like, because you mentioned Michael Jordan, he's in a state of trance, and I found that when I did long distance running, like, I just sort of, if I was concerned or anxious about something, that would kind of go away for like the 10 miles or whatever I was running. And it's also like applies to different sports too, because like I climb now, and then I just do like very different sports, like it doesn't have to be running, but like I found that physical activity, so like if you're active but you're not like sitting still, like that actually helps.
Your brain is something else to think
Moving
about. Your conscious
meditation.
brain is
Yeah.
thinking about something else. It's
Yeah.
focusing on